It is Monday, May 20th, 6:30 p.m. This is the first meeting of the Norton Charter Commission. Everyone is in attendance. Just wanted to ask if anybody was going to tape this session other than Shane. All right, we're good. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is exciting. All right, let me just start and just say I'm nervous, I'm excited, I'm very happy to be working with all of you. I think this is a good thing. I think we're going to do a great job and very much look forward to working with each of you. We're, a group of people who have volunteered basically the next 2 years of our lives to this project. We're probably all here because we believe there's at least something that needs to be fixed, whether large or small. None of us have any personal agendas. Nobody has any preconceived notions. But what we may want to accomplish, we just ask everybody keeps an open mind. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to agree on everything. Again, it's important to just be open-minded, listen to any and all ideas, regardless of, from where they come, amongst ourselves, from the public, from officials or employees. Give them all serious consideration. And it's important just to be thoughtful in our decision and not make rash decisions. So if it means we have to table something and think on it for a week, then we think on it for a week and we make sure we come back with the right decision. I've talked to a couple of hundred people about this process already when I was collecting signatures. And I think it's important to just say we are not going to win everybody over. We are not going to convince everybody what we're doing is the right thing, no matter how altruistically we go about it. There's just some people we are never going to change their mind, and we might as well just resign ourselves to that now, and try and do what's best for the town, and keeping that in mind. Not every group is going to welcome us with open arms, but for those people that we're not going to be able to convince, we're just going to have to take the loss and move on to areas where we have a better chance of making some inroads. And with that, would anybody else like to say anything? Anything you'd like to add? Okay. Just going forward, let's just keep that in mind and be thoughtful and sensitive of other people and their ideas. That's all. Sandy's prepared the minutes if we want to review those now, and I think we can all admit that was a lot of information to process, and I thank Sandy and apologize for this having to be the first one, because I think it was a very hard task. Okay. Okay. So I'm just waiting to see if anybody has any. Anybody have any other comments, adjustments they'd like to see? I'll take a motion to accept the minutes as we just amended them.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Everybody agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Okay. I think, having watched, a lot of planning board and FinCom meetings, the way they run their meetings seems to be, it's not too rigid, there's some structure there. It's probably a good way of going about it. I don't want to hold fast to Robert's Rule of Order. One, I just don't want to have to read up on it again. And two, I just don't want it to be that rigid. I guess we would just ask, similar to what FinCom and Planning Board do, if you have something that you'd like to question or comment, you want to be recognized, raise your hand. And if I'm not looking up, just yell out, because I will take my glasses on and off. And I need them for distance, not for close-up, and I refuse to get bifocals, so I'm sorry. I think if we have a member of the public addressing us, just try and remember that a lot of people have a fear of speaking in public, and try and be conscious of that and sympathetic to that. And we're a large group, and I think, somebody had to stand up there. It could be sort of scary. Try and let them finish their thoughts before asking questions, and kind of reiterate on what Attorney Goldberg said. Let's try and listen, and we don't want to interrogate them or engage them in a debate here on the floor. If it's the first time we're discussing something, we'll just listen and thank them for their time and tell them we'll take it under consideration. I think if there's a speaker who's going to be presenting a large amount of information, it's probably better to allow questions as we're going along so that it's fresh in our heads. Again, just try and be respectful of the speaker. Raise your hand if you'd like to be recognized. We'll try and take them in order. We'll make sure they answer their question in full and make sure the person is satisfied with that answer before we move on. And that's it. I think let's just be respectful of everybody and civil, including. Yes?
Sorry, quick question.
Yes.
So the public comment, I know we're having the public forum coming up in June.
Yes.
But for the regular meetings that we have, are we going to have it beginning, end?
It's number 4 on the agenda for right now.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No, we're going to try and do it at the beginning of every meeting. I think it probably makes sense then, rather to make them sit around and wait until the end to get their questions out, especially if we're going for a while. So my intention was right after the acceptance of minutes, we'll take comments from the public. Today we probably won't have any. It looks a little sparse out there. I'm very upset. This was just the high-ticket item. I can't believe there aren't people here today. Hopefully they show up to the public hearing. So yes, every single agenda item will have some space for public comment, and I can't see it getting too out of hand, so we'll just let people come in and ask questions or speak as they see fit. If there's a line, we may have to restrict it at some point just to get through regular business, but we can invite them back again. Does that seem fair to everybody? Anybody have any other preferences? Okay. All right. So, seeing nobody in the audience, Shane, anything you'd like to address right now? Okay. We're going to move on. That was easy. I get the feeling they're not all going to be that easy. Kevin and I met last week, so I have a bunch of, right now it's all like housekeeping stuff, but it's important. And Kevin and I met with Mike Units last Friday, and then have been emailing him back and forth with some follow-up questions about certain things. I'll get the good news out first, and that is that we have the use of Lauren Goldberg ongoing. We do not need to retain her personally. We can use her as an employee of the town, and her services will be paid through the town contract, which is great, especially since it doesn't appear we're going to get our budget funded, which I'm actually okay with given further follow-up conversations I've had with Mr. Units in terms of the availability of copy machines here and reimbursement for fees like legal notices that need to go into the Sun Chronicle that we would have to pay for. So it seems like we should be well able to work within our means there. So I'm not too upset about not having a personal operating budget. Honestly, it's just another thing to have to keep track of. So this is probably easier. Okay. Oh, we've been also given access, Kevin and I, to the Norton Alert System. I'm not sure if everybody has signed up for that. It's, I think initially it was intended to be for emergency alert systems, but you can also, users can sign up and ask for specific alerts from town committees and boards and departments. So for things like the public hearing, we are able, I think it's a 45-character limit, but we can send out quick text and email. I don't know exactly how many people have signed up at this point, but I think it'll allow us to reach a slightly larger audience than we normally would be able to with our other means, which is a nice thing. It'll also allow us to be able to cancel the meeting on the 4th if we don't need it, which I think would also be very helpful, and especially, we don't want people showing up and saying, where the hell's the meeting? Okay, let's see. We found out remote participation has not been approved by the Board of Selectmen yet. The good news is that one of the other committees has recently asked about it, so it was fresh on his mind, so he was going to follow up with Lauren Goldberg and find out the best way of going about it. I also raised it with Jack Conway and just asked him if he could keep it on his radar and see if he could get it on the next agenda. It looks like literally all it requires is a vote of the Board of Selectmen to approve that specific regulation. Once they do that, any town committee or board is allowed to use it. Once that happens, we'll come back and try and put some parameters about, when it should be used, and try and use it judiciously. Yes.
So if and when that's approved, do
Yeah.
we actually have the equipment to do that? Or like putting an iPhone in the middle of this room is probably not going to work
Yeah.
well for a conference call.
No. I'm hoping Shane might be able to assist on that front and maybe get us a...
So it's a,
There's a few options.
Okay.
all right, so we can
Yeah.
talk about it.
I was actually wondering if we could Skype. If he's got an app on his phone, we could simply mirror Skype up there. We could see your bright and shining face every time.
If you have, if I may.
Yes, please.
If anybody has a Droid here, not an iPhone. And by the way, I looked up that Microsoft display. It's not compatible with iOS, so you won't be able to use your Mac. But it uses Miracast. instead of
Okay.
Mirror. But if any of you have a Droid with Smart View capability, like a Note or an S8 or something like that, does anybody not have an iPhone?
I have an S10 Galaxy.
All right, then that'll work. I'll show you how to do it. It's really easy.
Okay.
Just I would be mindful of texting, like kind of block those messages,
Put it in airplane mode.
because whatever, well, you can't,
Oh,
because then it cuts off all the services.
okay.
Because you won't be able to cast without the services, right? 'Cause
Yep.
it cuts everything off.
Okay.
So you would have to block your messages, because whatever you have, your phone whatever happens to your phone will
Yep.
be displayed at the same time.
Okay.
And you can cast your, whatever you have going on with your phone. I'm just
Yeah.
So technical challenges still to be solved.
Yes.
A conference call would be nice.
Yeah.
We don't, you
You
know,
need like a Polycom, which is an actual phone to do that. It's like, it's a, basically like a circle type phone that has computers on all ends. It's a very high-end and expensive piece of equipment. And I don't know that we have that in town.
Okay.
But you could Skype using your phone and cast it to there, and then you'd be able to hear
Yep.
and
But-
go back and forth.
if I may, my suggestion would be is let's wait to find out if the Board of Selectmen can approve this. If they do, I think it's gonna be something that other committees end up using. So at that point, they're gonna have to make a decision on what kind of technology they're gonna use to do that. I mean, if that takes the conference call thing and that's what they gotta get, then that's what they gotta get. But, I mean, we'll figure that out after if we can even get this approved. As of now, we'll do what the status quo, and status quo is the meeting and us being here, so.
For a simple conference call, Polycom would be what I recommend. That's what's used in the business world. But I can show you how to use your phone on there, if you'd like after the meeting or whatever.
That would be great. Thank you, Shane.
See, everybody else has an iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will revisit that if and when the Board of Selectmen approve remote participation. We'll take it up again. Email, we need to talk a little bit about. That is still to be determined. We met with Mike, who then referred us to Lucia. And Lucia was a little confusing. So she has passed me off to the IT guy, and I'm meeting with him tomorrow at 8:30. We have been given the option of we can have just one single email address. The email can either just come to me or can come to the whole board. We can have that along with individual town email addresses for each member, which sounded ideal, and then everything stays on the town server. But when Lucia was describing it, we said, well, how do we access the inbox, the mailbox itself? And she said, well, you don't. All this does is it's a forwarding app of some sort, that it tells you that there's a message, and then you go on your own personal email to get that message, which completely defeats the purpose of it. And when we raised that on Friday, she said, yeah, I don't know. If you can come on Tuesday and talk to the IT guy. So tomorrow I'm meeting with Adam, their IT guy. I think if it comes down to, all we have access to is this forwarding thing, and it's automatically going to our individual personal email addresses, there's not much we're going to be able to do. And our recommendation would be to have everybody set up an email account that is specifically for charter commission or town business, if you happen to sit on another committee. Yes?
Yeah, I agree with that. I would recommend that. I feel like at this point, waiting for the town to set, you can see what he says tomorrow morning, and if
Yeah.
it's different, that's great. But being that we're really not a standing committee and waiting for the town to set that up, I think we're better off just all coming into agreement and using one specific account, jgoodwincharter@gmail.com, and everybody is consistent. And then, one email address through the town that maybe goes through you and Kevin, or just you,
Yep.
and then you can give that information
Disperse
to
it
us.
yeah.
I think that's
I agree.
the best way to do
If we
it.
come to find out, if tomorrow we find out, they can set up us up with an email and an inbox that we can actually, a mailbox we can access, I think it would be better to go that route.
Yep.
Everything is already on the server. We don't have to worry about public records or open meeting law requests or complaints. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to mention, so the ZBA and I assume the planning board this week has been a big effort to get us all signed up.
Okay.
And that actually went rather smoothly. So right now, I have a DREN at NortonMassUS.
And you can access a mailbox and get that email?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
It
I thought
comes
so.
right- Comes right to my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once we work through a couple technical glitches.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to go on, like, say, file it in inboxes and different folders, and, like, you're actually on a server.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect, that's exactly
Yeah,
what I was
sorry.
hoping
Yeah.
for. So we will set, it will be your, according to Lucia, it will be your first initial, last name, and I forget if it'll actually reference Charter Commission, but it might just simply be at Norton, Mass.
Norton, M-A-U-S.
Yeah. Which I think is the safest way of going about it. And then we'll still have a single email address for the public to address us, and we'll put that on our website. And I can distribute those as,
Yeah, and if it doesn't go that way, if
Yeah.
it goes the original way, whereas we're not gonna get it and it's not gonna go through the server, I really am not comfortable using my personal email.
no, I'm not either. I've already set one up.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I know that even despite the fact that we're, even if we set up these emails and we use them for Charter Commission only, they still are personal emails.
Yes.
And we still have to somewhere maybe in there, maybe even at the bottom, this is
Yep.
for personal, this is not for personal use, this is Charter Commission only, all is subject to public. So if we can't go that route that he's talking about, I would definitely prefer to set one up like you have.
I agree. And then just one other reference item is if and when we do get town email addresses, if you have communicated Charter Commission, obviously prior to the point of getting that email, just forward the messages to your town email address so that everything literally from day one is in that server. And we should be safe.
And I think
Good.
that's a good idea, and I think as soon as you meet tomorrow with the IT guy, and then we can make a decision and we can get right on this, because I
Yeah.
feel like stuff is just coming in, and the longer we wait, the more we're just gonna have to forward.
Why don't we just take a quick vote on it now? Let's assume that if David can get it, I'm assuming we can as well.
I
If-
am special.
You are. We've talked about that
You're with
specifically. Provided the town can set us up with individual email addresses, I am assuming that's the way we would like to go as a group. And I'll move forward with that. And I will get those tomorrow. I will try and see if Adam can give us some sort of instructions for accessing, and David might volunteer his assistance now that he's new to it and the resident guru.
Yes, I can send you the instructions already.
Beautiful. And I will try.
What's that?
You already have your town email now.
Yeah, but I have the instructions. And,
I will distribute those as soon as I have them so that you can get set up immediately.
Right, but you'll have to have two, right? You can't have,
Yes.
So how would they?
yeah, because you can't have because if he already, and like
He's-
Kevin already has a.
They're going to get separate ones.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, they're going to have
Separate one, okay.
So they don't have to
separate
look at
charter
CC after
specific
it or
ones.
something, so they know it's Charter Commission or.
Yes, it would have to be something.
Do you want it to say like lp.cc at Norton?
Because my,
Oh, I mean, if it goes through the town, I don't really.
either
care.
way,
I don't really.
either me and Keith are gonna be different servers. I mean,
Yeah.
From the
Yeah.
town, we have different servers. It doesn't matter really what you
Right.
call it. It's just
Right.
gonna be.
Okay.
The Norton Mass server for you guys is gonna be different than the server I have, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be an issue.
Okay.
And I'm fine with whatever everybody wants to do. If we keep it consistent, I think that's best.
So if we get set up with that tomorrow, I'm going to distribute that via email so that you can get those set up as soon as possible and not wait until the 28th. All right, everybody saw the data dump we got from Lauren Goldberg that she promised. I think for now, let's hold discussion on the contents of that until, we have a chance to digest it. Let's get past the public hearing, and then we can do a deep dive into that information and see how we want to undertake scheduling it and putting it on reading lists for various future meetings.
Laura, I'm sorry, what are you, I'm not sure.
The
what you're
email
talking
from Lauren Goldberg.
I didn't get it either.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
about. I did not get one.
It had like 50 attachments on it.
Yeah, would it come from Laura?
I didn't get it.
Okay. It was sent Saturday. You got it, you got it, you got it. That's interesting.
I know it's in here somewhere.
Okay. And I set up a group charter commission email that has all 9 of us, and I CC myself, so it has,
Yeah, no, I did not get that.
I didn't get it.
Well, if
I wonder what the
if you get the email worked out tomorrow, I
size
believe you can just
res-
resend it. and
I
it'll
did
be
get
in.
your other ones, the
wonder if there's
agenda
a
ones, but I did not get that
size
one.
issue.
And I got Sandy's, but I did not get that one.
And I think regardless, at this point, even for this meeting, we're not gonna be discussing what's in
Yeah.
that email.
No.
At this point, we're gonna be reviewing it.
It was a
later, so
lot. There was 11, 12 attachments, if not more.
If the emails are set up tomorrow, we can resend them to those emails of the town. We can digest it as we go along after the public thing and kind of approach it one at a time, because I agree, it's a lot of information. There's a lot of it was from what she discussed last meeting. I think they're gonna obviously come up future meetings, so we can deal with it when it comes up.
Can I just get a show of hands of who didn't see it? Because I did not get any bounce backs from anybody. Just, okay. I would have thought if it rejected by somebody else's server, it would have come back and told me it was too large or server rejected it. Okay. All right, I apologize. I was assuming everybody had that, so. I tried. Okay, and then meeting rooms. So I talked to the Norton Public Library. I happened to get the woman we needed to speak with actually on the correct date because they had a trustee meeting that night. And I found out that any use by a committee has to have the approval of the trustees. So I explained to her what we were looking for the room for. She had some reservations upon initially speaking with me, especially, she said depending on how town meeting went, which their budget passed. So they are now looking at expanded hours. They're going to now be open until 7:30 p.m. And she said there are some days that they run up to 4 programs a day and they would be running during business hours. She was concerned about us holding standing meetings in that room and prohibiting other people from being able to use them. So the trust, she said, she felt that's how the trustees were going to vote, that's how they had voted in the past. They have invited us to use it as a backup if this room were not available. They have invited us to use it for any public hearings or info sessions that we might want to hold, but they have asked us if we could not use it for our regular standing meetings. I went down to the Norton Media Center to take a look at the rooms that they have available, and while they do have one room that I think would be very nice to use. Again, similar situation, you know, I had asked Jason if we could book it out for a period of time in advance if we know our standing meetings, and he said we really don't like to do that because, again, it limits the ability of other people to use it. One of the other issues is there are dance and choral and drama groups and Girl Scouts and the like that meet in there that may not be in terms of being able to hear ourselves and have a nice quiet setting. It may not be the best place. And again, they offered it for backup space if we wanted to hold a public session. One of my thoughts was if we held it there, then we didn't have to worry about them having a remote crew, but it turns out even if we're there, they hire a remote crew to come in and tape it. So to them, it did not make any difference if we were doing it on site or remotely. So given that, I think we probably are just going to resign ourselves to use this room. It's convenient in terms of, Shane's already here, always in that chair. And it's large enough to accommodate us. It holds a decent number of seating for the public. And it allows us the ability to book the room out significantly in advance. So I think once we decide on standing meeting dates and times, which I'd like to get accomplished today, then tomorrow when I go in and meet with IT, I'll go to Lucia next and I'll book the rooms, and for as often in as many meetings as we can, let's try and pick a backup date if our primary date can't work, and then I'll send you basically a standing agenda list, or not an agenda list, a calendar list for the next foreseeable few months, if that works for everybody. Meeting rooms. Okay, I think that's all of the logistics. And again, hopefully we don't have to do a lot of this housekeeping stuff going forward, and we can kind of get right into the business of things. One of the things that I had created, actually a while back, if it was in your packet, it is our major milestones. And this was as per Chapter 43B Home Rule Procedure, which sets out a ton of requirements in terms of guidelines and things that need to be met. So this literally captures everything from election date to the termination of the Charter Commission. Keep in mind, these are very high-level milestones. This particular spreadsheet is going to expand exponentially. Case in point, starting at 5:20, read, research, survey, meet with various groups. Those are all going to get subtasks and, specific start and end dates. The good thing about this is within the fourth column, you can see there's an assign to. I can invite everybody to view this. I'm going to bring my laptop each meeting and I'm going to update it in real time. As things get assigned, I will put your name in there and it automatically sends you an email telling you you've had tasks assigned to you. So it'll help keep you a little organized as well. So starting, we've already covered as we complete items, they'll turn green and they'll be italicized. So at some point, hopefully we have an entire green sheet in about 2 years, yes.
So you've been very busy.
I've been incredibly busy.
So I guess I have one comment and one question about
Sure.
that. The comment is, I hope especially as we get into new business that we take it upon ourselves to spread the wealth of all of these
I would
additional
love that.
tasks. So, I won't speak for everybody, but certainly I would be willing to help out with some of these things because to me, chair doesn't mean the person doing everything, right? Chair is the chair and that's a specific role.
Yes,
I
I agree. But I felt it was,
Yeah, for the first...
yeah, I sold myself on the ability to hit the ground running.
Yep. Boy, did you. So again, just speaking for myself, I really appreciate everything that you've done here.
You're welcome.
The question that I have is, again, to me, the chair is the chair, and that's a specific role. What I see here is project management,
Yes.
which is awesome.
Yep.
And absolutely something we're going to need, but feels like something that should be handled not necessarily by the chair. The actual act of managing deadlines, ensuring that resources are assigned to things, right? Project management is a role in and of itself.
Yep.
That's one, despite just saying that I would be willing to help with things, I would not be the one to do that because I'm just not that organized. But can we spin up and maybe it's not even an official role, but somebody in this group assigned as project manager dedicated to keeping us on task, maintaining the schedule, and all of those things?
I am perfectly comfortable handing this over to somebody if somebody else wants to manage it. If nobody does, I will continue to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you say, I think somebody else should do it, but it's not me.
I mean, I can do it, but it'll be done badly. If that's what we want. It's just not my...
Yeah, I
My
would
skill
say
set.
I've seen a lot of these and worked off a lot of these at work, but I've not actually created them. So I need a quick little lesson on how to.
I am
manage
a
the
month,
workbook.
yeah, I'm literally a month in. It's Smartsheet.
Okay.
It works very similarly to Excel. So it's almost seems like it was an Excel base that they tweaked for this purpose. This is a specific they've got all sorts of different templates.
Yep.
This one is specifically for project management.
Yep.
The one thing I was struggling with initially, as you can see, there's a start and an end date, but as you create subtasks under it, it was changing the main task dates, which was driving me nuts because some of them are set in stone and cannot be moved.
Yeah.
And it took me a really long time to realize that, I actually need to add in the second to last column, there's a deadline date, and that is locked and cannot be changed. And what you can do is set a lot of these tasks to key off of those dates, which are now fixed, which is very helpful. So the way I saw it working is the start and end date would literally be the literal start and end date of the task, keeping in mind, obviously, the deadline. in which we needed to operate. But I don't mind.
I'm willing to take it on. If you want to send it to me, and I'll play with it a little bit, and then maybe we'll touch base on some questions that I might
That would be
have
great.
as I'm-
Okay. No, I absolutely. Anybody else really want to do this? Anybody want to fight Denise for it? I'm actually a little relieved. I hadn't considered that, but thank you. That's one less thing. But if you don't mind, let's just run through the quick major ones. So we've got the first public hearing. Obviously, our deadline date was June 7th. We've scheduled it for June 3rd. Within the comments, the only thing I've put in the comments are the timeframes in which we're required to get these things done, and in some cases I've cited where those regs came from, like in the case of the election, because they came from the bylaws as opposed to the charter itself or the home rule procedure. So by, let's see, August 23rd, 2020, which seems like a really long time and very far away, that is the date by which we have to have a preliminary report done, published, given to the clerk, and sent to the AG's office, as well as the, I don't remember what this is, Department of Housing and Community Development, I think, which I have no idea why they are involved in this, but they get a copy of absolutely everything, in addition to the Attorney General's office. There are public hearings that we are required to have subsequent to that preliminary report. Obviously, we're going to want to have others along the way, but these are the ones that are required by law, literally. The final report is due to the Board of Selectmen, the AG's office, and again, that weird department, by October 24th, 2020. And then, interestingly, we don't vote on it until next April of 2021. So it seems like an immense amount of time. Well, it seems like a rush to get a lot of stuff done, and I think it just happens to be the way the timing of our elections work. But there's a very large gap in time where we're essentially done. There's nothing more we can do other than promote it. Yes, Sandy? Yeah, and I think we're trying to get buy-in at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like an immense amount of time in between the time that the final report is done and when we actually vote on it. So it's going to be interesting times, I think. And then we vote on it on April 27th, 2021, and our commission ends 30 days from that date.
Maybe I'll go celebrate.
What's that?
Maybe I'll go celebrate.
Yes, yes, and then we won't know what to do with ourselves. We'll have so much time available. Does anybody have any questions specifically about the milestones, let's just say by law, because understanding, I've put a lot of placeholders in here of, things that we need to do, but there are no specific dates. We're going to have decisions as to, how they get scheduled, when they get scheduled, et cetera.
Just a quick
Yes.
question. So is your vision that this will be on some site that we all access, or that we
Yes.
send it out prior to each meeting?
No, I think, so my intention was to actually put this specific one, so I've saved this export as a PDF, and my intention is to put this on our website so that the public can see it and see what our milestones are and can kind of watch our progress
Yeah.
without the fine detail and all the minutia. So I kind of liked it in this form, and at some point when we talk about the website, we can decide whether or not we agree to put this out there, because I think that's important. We all need to be in agreement, but I also think for process and transparency, it's a good thing. If we can show the public, look, I also think we should bring this to the public hearing and say, this is what we need to do, and we have 2 years to do it, and we've got a long way to go, and please be patient, because you can see for probably the next, several months, all we're going to be doing is information gathering, and we do not have a lot of deliverables by the state. until much later in the process. So, but yes, the spreadsheet, so I bought a license to this software. I was on a free trial for 30 days to see if I liked it. And everybody that I had talked to in project management said this tends to be the gold standard in terms of software. And it's also the easier one to use, which was nice. But so we get one license, and it allows you to have 10 collaborators, which was perfect. And we also were able to buy a nonprofit license, so it was significantly cheaper than if we were a business or even an individual user. So it was just $145 for the year. I've paid for it. I'm not going to worry about it. But it allows us, so I'm going to, at some point, or Denise is going to invite everybody so that they can see it. Most people will have view access only, but at any given time, you can pull this up on any device. There's an app, you can pull it up on your computer. It works on all devices, and you can actually refer to it and see it. You could print it off and keep track of where we are and what anybody's individual deliverables are, including your own. But that's how I kind of foresaw it happening.
Okay.
If that seems reasonable to everybody. Yes.
I just have a question, because I'm this format and this program that you're talking about is new to me.
Yep.
I
And
don't-
a month ago it was to me as well.
Right. I work in education. I've never seen nothing like this. We don't have this. So when you're talking these milestones here and these dates, are we talking about clear legal dates, guidelines? that
Strict
need
legal
to be
requirement,
met?
yes.
Okay, so those are our milestones that are here, and we're making sure that we're meeting those on these charts.
Yes.
Okay. But you're talking about now putting in our milestones mixed in with these in terms of what we're gonna do, so we have one set thing that incorporates
Yes.
legal milestones and then what we're doing.
Yes. So everything is in the same, because it's a process and it kind of has to happen in an order. So let's take, for example, under first public hearing. So there's the notification of the public hearing and then the actual public hearing. So you can, the little minus sign that's next to the first public hearing, you can shrink that down so that all you see is the high-level task item. You don't have to see the subtasks. But let's say, for example, that next one down, read/research, which is very broad. I would expect that to have multiple, and I'm thinking at least a half a dozen subtasks. So as we, decide, okay, we're going to start with the Norton's charter. Then we're going to look at a couple of other charters in the state that have open town meeting. And then we'll move on to representative town meeting. So each of those under that are going to become subtasks, but you can collapse them all so that you can just see the major task item. But the individual ones would all be under there, and then let's say if we had to assign something specifically, I'm thinking, let's say David is going to go to, just off the top of my head, Westwood's town meeting next April, and report back. We would put that on there as a task item. He'd be assigned to it, and everybody can kind of refer to it and see where we are in the process. But yeah, it seems it's not that bad. It's logical. It's going to seem overwhelming once this thing starts getting much larger. You're going to need a really big screen to see it. And the one part that I did leave out is, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the Gantt chart. What it is it graphically represents the project on a calendar timeline. So I've left that off because I didn't really want to complicate matters, but you can actually show this not only in task view, which this is in, but Gantt view, so there's a huge entire calendar, and unfortunately because our project time frame is just so large, it doesn't look great. It's really kind of cumbersome. But you can see, you can graphically represent your project on a calendar timeline, which I'm a little bit of a geek, so I like that sort of thing. But again, for this particular project, it just didn't look good, and I would need 7 pieces of paper to print it all out.
So I guess the one thing that concerns me
Yes.
is the timeframes and the time limits, not so much with the legal requirements, because those are set in stone and those
Yep.
aren't changing and we're not changing those. But I guess my concern would be putting a time frame on something that, we find, or maybe we decide we need to be flexible in terms of something we find that's taking us much longer than we thought.
Yep.
Or we need to move something up.
Those
or
are
we need to move something
completely
down.
set
I'm
by
hesitant-
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there are,
I'm hesitant to put that out there for people and then see it changing
Yep.
back and forth.
let me clarify, they're only going to see this. So the only thing I'm going to put on the website is the major milestones, which I'm probably going to save this as a separate document, and then move on to project milestones, and that'll be our working document. The public, obviously, under public records law, if they wanted to see it, they have access to it. But in terms of the major milestones, this is all I think we should probably present. It's all we are legally required, and at the end of the day, they don't need to know how the sausage is made, for lack of a better phrase. But I agree, yes, I don't think we want, we don't want it to be, at the mercy of the public coming back and saying, well, you're supposed to finish this by this date. That's not how this works. We set our timeframes, we set our deliverable dates. If it's something that we need more time on, so be it, we change our deadline date. There's nothing hard and fast about what we need to accomplish in what time frame. Nobody can dictate that but us. Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay. All right, so we talked about that. The town website, I did a mock-up of some information, and I'm looking for, this is just a first draft, and I'm looking for some feedback of what we actually want to put on the town website. Right now, I think Lucia thinks our names are there, but they're not there, which is fine, because at this point, we don't have email addresses, so there's not much to put out there anywhere. If you've ever been on the town website for I'm thinking, the Permanent Building Committee, I think, has probably the use of most of the capabilities of the town website in terms of using the sidebars. But I'll just run through, if everyone's okay with it, I'll just read through what we want to potentially consider for the main section, and then talk about what some of the other sections will contain. So, main section is just Charter Commission. The Charter Commission was formed on April 24th, 2019, at town election by a nearly 4-to-1 margin amongst 1,840 voters. Charter Commission operates pursuant to Mass General Law 43B. That's a hypertext link. I'm hoping I can give that to Lucia, and she can put it on there so that if anybody clicked on that link, it takes them directly to that document. If not, then my intention is to put it up in one of the information sidebars. It will spend the next 18 months gathering information, conducting surveys, meeting with the public, researching and analyzing different charters and forms of government from towns around the Commonwealth, and if deemed appropriate by the commissioners, propose to the voters of the town changes to Norton's current charter. The charter, also hyperlink, establishes and defines the structure of the government of our town. By the process allowed under Section 20 of Mass General Law 43B, the Commission may create, divide, or consolidate departments, distribute powers, duties, and responsibilities among local offices, and establish and define procedures to be followed. The Commission is required to hold periodic public hearings at various steps in the process. Notifications of required public hearings will be posted on the town website, the Sun Chronicle, it should say, and on the community pages of Norton Media Center. We may want to add in there about the town alerts, maybe?
About the what?
Town alerts?
Are you gonna add them as a alert choice they can select? Charter commission
Hyperlink to that.
updates or something?
Oh, I think it's on the banner of every town page. Yeah.
Okay.
I think right across the top, there's a big red bar.
Right, but you can pick from a menu which
Yes.
notifications, so we're gonna add like charter commission notifications as one of the menu items.
I think you don't get to choose which, do you get to choose which departments you want? Oh, okay, so maybe
Yeah, I
we
think
should,
There's a drop-down menu and you can pick like how many.
Yeah.
okay. So maybe we put something in here, please sign up for town alerts to be notified of,
Future
what-
meetings.
yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we would want to make them aware of.
Future meetings and
I think the
public
meetings would be the
hearings.
big one, yeah.
Okay,
Public
all right,
meetings.
We
so,
can generalize and just say pertinent information.
okay.
And that's a big, I think the big thing with that alert system is we don't want to overdo it either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That system is kind of designed for emergencies, so when you get one, you don't just go, oh, you know, it's another one of these, you know what I mean? I think it's important that we don't put stuff on there that we can accomplish in other avenues through, whether it be the, you know, website or the media page, like you said, of the Sun Chronicle.
Yep.
Okay, so to be alerted of Charter Commission information?
I don't think I want to say general information, maybe like
We just say important public hearings.
public hearings or something.
Alerted of important public hearings. Please register, sign up. What's the phrasing they use? Please sign up.
It's located on the main webpage.
Norton Alerts. I actually think every page has a red banner up at the top. To Norton Alerts at the link above. Okay, I'll wordsmith that up a little bit. Okay. Sorry, thought somebody had a question. Okay, so notice of required public hearings will be posted on the town website, the Sun Chronicle, and on the community pages of the Norton Media Center. Please refer to the information section on this page to see a summary of the major milestones of the commission. All Charter Commission meetings will be taped and posted on Norton Media Center. I'll put a link in there for viewing at any time. Under public input, all residents, officials, whether appointed or elected, and town employees are welcome to provide input throughout the review process. Our Charter Commission meetings are open to the public, and time will be allocated in every meeting for public comment. Please refer to our agendas for specific topics to be discussed in a particular meeting. To contact the commission, please send us an email and hopefully we'll have one shortly. And then we'll list the individual Charter Commission members. If we had a town website or town email address for everybody individually, we're going to list them here. There may be some people may be very familiar with Keith or Kevin specifically, and want to address something having to do specifically with the highway or the police and may want to send them direct comments or suggestions. So same with anybody else within town. People may just feel more comfortable addressing an item with one individual person you may know as opposed to the group in whole. And then, let's see. So the way it looks like it's set up, and these look like they are fairly fixed. The top left sidebar would be for information. So the Permanent Building Committee has kind of like the cost analysis and the feasibility study, et cetera, of the town hall and community center project that they're working on. I'm thinking that this would be the place where we would put our timeline. If we can't hyperlink some of those things, we would put the charter in there, the home rule procedures in there, the links to the Norton Media Center specifically. Bottom left seems to be held for meeting information, so once we choose a standing date and time and location, You know, we can say, you know, typically meets every da-da-da-da at this time in this location. And then just say, you know, please refer to the agenda for exact meeting locations as times or locations may change. The top right sidebar seems to be used for news and events. I'm thinking if we get an article in the Sun Chronicle, we can put a link to it there. Various events, like the public hearing that's coming up, we can put a link for that. And then the bottom right is typical on every single page, the calendar of the particular committee. All of the agendas are listed there, and the minutes are listed there. Yeah, the only, so we don't have control over the website, so everything that we give them, we kind of have to give them in writing, and we're going to have to tweak things up a little bit as we're going along. I kind of wish we had access to it individually, but I can see for the purposes of the town, they just don't want anybody getting out there and putting something up there that they, is not appropriate, so. Did anybody have any suggestions or changes or things they don't like or want to remove or want to add? Yes?
I was thinking about the second paragraph there, starting off, Charter Commission operates.
Yes.
I was thinking making it a little more, like, for example, it says it will spend the next 18 months, which of course, in a month from now, will not be an applicable timeline.
Oh, right,
So I guess I was personally thinking it will spend
18.
months
Yep.
gathering, and then maybe put the date when we would propose to the voters the changes, you know.
Oh,
should be
yep.
April, so then they know
Mark their calendars?
when they can mark their calendars.
So I think he's right. I think at the bottom there, you can see if deemed appropriate by the commissioners, proposed to the voters of the town change in Norton's current charter. You can add in however you want to wordsmith it, which would be
Yeah,
voted
on
April or
election.
April 2020.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Election date, I forget what it is now, April
I
27th,
think
it's
too, with
really
this,
late.
I mean, I think this is a great start. I mean, it gets our
So,
core things out there and at least allows people to go on and kind of see the beginning thing. I mean, this is going to be so fluid and changing constantly. I think we're going to be adding so much stuff to this as we go. I mean, to me, this is a great start. And then as we approach in each meetings and we review and discuss different things, we can always add more tabs and more drop downs and
Yes.
links and whatnot to inform them kind of where we're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
I think we could do, you know, updates every quarter or so often, and, you know, here's what we've gotten done so far, and
sure.
kind of just tell them where we are in the timeframe. And as, you know, things come up, Lucia said, you know, we can send her updates or changes at any time, so it seems like it's fairly fluid.
Just one more thing, just
Yeah.
just change the spelling on this. It's SILVER. Last one. Not Keith Smith. Silver.
Oh,
SILVER.
sorry, yep. That's weird. Sorry, Keith.
I saw it. I was gonna say something.
Raise your hand if I get your name wrong, please.
Just a couple of other
Do
quick
you
thoughts.
prefer junior, by the way?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Follows the town too, so it's
Okay.
gonna be confusing.
Sorry, Dave.
So it's great that we link to the specific section 20 of MGL, chapter 43B.
Yep.
Maybe this would go in the information links bar, but if we could get like a charter commission simplified, charter commission in plain English, right? If people, nobody's gonna be able to read that and understand what it really means.
Yep.
Right? So maybe it's one of the attachments that we got in that email the other day. I didn't go through all of them, but something that sort of describes it at a higher level so that people can not have to read legally, right? I'm looking at people with law degrees at the other end of the table. So you probably understand it.
I always recommend,
Yeah.
putting it in plain English.
Yeah.
Is that something you would be willing to take on?
Yeah, I can take a look at what Lauren sent, and I'm sure there's something.
I
Excellent.
think one of the links she actually has, like
Yeah.
a broken down version of.
I didn't
Yeah.
even,
So I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of she almost has it clearly written out, like the bullet points
Yeah.
of that law, because
Yeah.
that law is
It's a lot.
brutal.
yeah. And honestly, every time I saw that email, I gagged a little.
And then
It's just a lot of information.
I know we heard last week a lot of the dangers of using social media for communication amongst ourselves, but like I don't know anybody that goes to the town website regularly to look for when the next meeting, right? So can we create maybe a Facebook page or a Twitter that's monologue, right? That is just us saying, because there's no push in here, I guess is what I'm getting to, right? There's nothing that goes out to people.
Yep.
Everything here requires people to go to it
Actively
for
pursue
those updates. So maybe that's something we can table because I think as this is a great,
Yep.
this can just go, right, from my perspective. But maybe that's something that we do to enhance it in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, I do have, Kevin had brought up the Norton Citizens for a Charter Commission, which is for legal purposes, is considered a political action community. And we'll probably want to talk a little bit more about that, and how we, I don't want to say distance ourselves. I think it's a good tool. We want to use it. But we need to be careful about how we're engaging, especially with open meeting law in terms of how we're getting that information out to the public that doesn't invite them to engage and comment and expect a response back. And I think we'll have to I agree, we should probably table it. Sorry.
Can it just be as simple as creating like a little, like I've seen like Parks and Rec do all the time, right? Like there's an upcoming public hearing, we post it on all the social media pages, right? Norton Neighbors, Investing Norton.
Yes.
Charter, and then just lock down comments, people can't comment on it.
Yes.
You know, in my opinion, of course, everybody's using, social media is the biggest thing going. I mean, it gets the most information out. I just think we have to be careful, and I think Lauren could probably help us out with this, is tell us where the line is with certain use of social media, that it still gets information out, that can push the information and say, this is what we're meeting, this is what we're doing, please come to these, these public meetings. But I think on the same token is that the public needs to understand that if you go on there and are asking questions, you may not get a response, or you aren't going to get a response from the 1 in the 9 of us, just due to the open meeting laws.
Right.
We're perfectly happy to engage with you, come to the public meeting, we'll be on camera, we'll do what we need to do. But I think creating any of these pages, we just need to be careful that we're not violating any of those laws that are set forth for us, so we know exactly what's going out there. I think it's important, I just think we need to make sure that we're on the same page with town council,
Sure.
Yep.
that we're on the up and up.
Yeah, maybe it's probably makes sense just best to lock it on comments so people can, because if we can't answer their questions or concerns, then it's just going to end up turning into a mess.
Yeah. But I'm also concerned about putting something out there and not allowing comment, because then
But it's
some
just-
people
it's
are
just a
immediately
meeting notice,
suspicious
though.
of that too.
I would, even if we end up, and again, I know we can table this for later, I think it's gonna be something that comes up constantly throughout the next, how many months, but even if we create something where we're able to put information out there, I don't wanna per se lock anybody down from commenting on it. I mean, it's social media. I mean, the minute you start locking people down and saying you can't talk about it, you can't do it, I mean, we're not gonna get into that. I think, but knowing that we're all on the same page, that individually, we're not gonna go out and start answering everybody's questions that ask, we don't even know what the question's gonna be, you know what I mean? And we
I
may
guess-
not know the answer to it at that point.
I guess I was assuming we're just using it as a way of pushing out notice dates of public hearings.
Yep.
I don't think there's not a need for comment, really,
No.
about that, right? We're just saying,
This
we're meeting.
this may help, and I'm sorry, we'll jump around it, but there's nobody to really confuse. It's just us. So, if you want to take a look at in your packet, there was its heading is legal notice Sun Chronicle. So that is the legal notice that is going out literally to the Sun Chronicle. That we are required to put out there 10 days in advance. It is the bare bones of the coordination of the meetings itself and just making sure people know where we're going. But the second half of that was on the Norton Media Center. They had a page called Community Bulletins, and I found out that if we give them the details of our public hearing, they will, all of their little community pages for all of their events all have this kind of same retro look and feel, and they're all kind of quaint. They actually will make one of these for us, which was great. And I was thinking, once we got the artwork for the public hearing, if Jason would share it with us, I was thinking this was the type of thing that we could share on some of the public media where it's literally just a slide or a page. We'll have to have a discussion about whether we want to shut off comments, but at least it allows us to graphically get the information out there on as many channels as we can without really engaging or seeking comment. So that was an idea that we can discuss once. So I'm going to send we can review the actual details of the meeting page when we get to that section, and maybe now is an appropriate time to discuss it. But Jason said he needs about 48 hours. They have a graphic designer on staff. They will put that together for us. He said he needs generally, he recommends a week in advance. Peter J. Wiggins will read our announcement, and it will, go through the loop on Channel 9 and Channel 15. It's also available. If they go onto Norton Media Center, there's a whole page of the active community page slides out there. Not that I think a lot of people are going to be finding them there. But I was thinking this would be a good idea, so we would graphically, we could grab people's attention and have something that we could use for publicity purposes.
And I don't know if did we decide to table this, or are we still discussing Facebook, social media?
We're going to table Facebook for now.
Social media, okay.
Yeah. I think in terms of the first public hearing, we'll let it run on the Norton Media Channel. The Norton citizens have put an event out there to make people aware of the first public hearing. There's going to be a thing in the Sun Chronicle. We'll send out a town alert, and we will see kind of how we make out from there.
And I think as long as on, because I think there's 2 sites, if I'm correct, 2 charter sites, are there 2? An advocates one and then a Norton Charter Committee? I feel like there's 2.
There used to be an advocates one, but I don't know if it's...
There was a Norton Charter Commission Advocates and then Norton Citizens for a Charter Commission.
I do
I don't know
remember,
if
no,
one
there
still
was an
exists.
advocate.
Maybe one, okay.
There was one, she's
was.
right.
There
I
was
do know
one.
it. I don't know,
They're both still there. I don't
are?
know which one's active. I don't know either. And I guess my thought in bringing it up is, they're a group and they can publish an event and they can,
Yeah.
I mean, we can't stop them
No.
from anything like that, but I think it's important that somehow there is the distinction between them and this commission.
Yes.
Right? Because there's going to be a lot of comments and a lot of back and forth, and that we can't stop that. So somehow on that page there needs to be that distinction.
yes. And if you go to their About section now, we've asked them to amend it, which they have, and they are directing, once we have our email address, we will give that to them. So right now, it just says, please direct any questions towards the Charter Commission specifically to them. We'll give them that email address so that they have that option. My other suggestion to them was if a question is specifically raised in a comment on a post that they make, that they just have a standing response, along the lines of, thank you, please direct, this would be better directed to the Charter Commission itself, and here's the link to the email. But I agree.
It was a what? Oh, okay. Okay.
So I think my suggestion would be is obviously we're going to table this for later. I think between now and next meeting, we need to speak to town council to find out exactly what the rules are, what he suggests the best course of action is for anything that we do on Facebook. So we know the rules. So if we do decide to do anything down the line, we kind of have it lined up for us. Because I think it's, like you said, utterly important that we put those things out there. I just want to make sure that we're not putting everything out there and then realizing that we're backtracking and trying to pull stuff back. So if we get advice from town council, we know where we stand, then we can take a vote or a motion on trying to corral it into what we want.
Agreed. And I think we're going to just keep hammering this, and I'm sorry. Do not engage with anybody. Please try not to. Do your best. Hold your temper if you can. I know it's hard.
Only about charter commission stuff.
Oh, yes, exactly.
I think we
Try and remember that you are representing the Charter Commission.
I think encouraging people, I think encouraging voters to be involved is obviously something we want to do. We just need to allow them to understand that we can engage with them in these open town meetings when it's on camera.
Yeah.
Is that, them putting out a question on one of these pages that we have no control over or we're not attached to, is making us look like we're not engaging with them. That's not, we don't want to do that.
Right.
We encourage you to come here. We encourage you to speak on, whatever you feel that the charter needs to review. But I just think that if we get it done in the beginning, we won't have to, 10, 15 months from now, start to backpedal on how we're going to handle social media. I mean,
Yeah, my fear is too, if the comments got a hand, a lot of misinformation to be put out there, then we're stuck not able to
Yeah,
fix it.
and it's going to get frustrating really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bound to happen, no matter what. we do.
The misinformation's
It just-
gonna, yeah,
it's
exactly.
just-
But if we're just using it for dates,
Yeah, I agree. I
Strictly objective stuff that really.
Coordination.
There shouldn't be any subjective comments on it at all.
there shouldn't, but people feel the need to.
That is, that's accurate,
Yeah.
that's true.
well, maybe we can create a page that, we simply are advising up front. This is created for this specific purpose because of open meeting law. We are not allowed to, accept comments. You're welcome. We'd love to have you come to a meeting and direct us, or send us an email if you, don't really want to come and see us.
I think too, I know we've talked about this, I think it's a fine line, because I know there's numerous complaints, because you can go back to any of the meetings that we've had in town about lack of communication, so
Yeah.
we don't want to fall into that trap
Yeah,
of not putting
transparency
information
and,
out.
yeah.
But we
getting
also
us
don't
in
want to
trouble.
fall into the trap of, well, we're just going to violate every rule there is. So, I mean, I get it. You don't have to watch a meeting to have someone, you can watch any meeting in town and someone come up here saying that the town doesn't, or, elected boards or whatever aren't communicating with the citizens of town, the voters of town. So I don't want to go that route either. I just want to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do and we're following it so we don't have to approach it, 15
Yep.
months from now.
Agreed. Okay.
So you want to make a motion to put
Yeah,
that
so-
information on there, at least on the website?
Yes, so Carrie, for the summary, how long do you think you would need for that? What's a reasonable?
Today, Monday.
Today's Monday. What's a reasonable time frame for you?
I'll get it done, but I'll get something to you by Friday.
Friday, okay. Okay, so we'll provide that instead of that specific regulation.
So for what it's worth,
Yes.
I think it's a both and, not an either or. Right? I think it's important to get the specifics.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I think Dave was thinking the quick link, if you will, or the simple.
Well, we've already referred to MGL 43B up top where they have all of the sections. We
don't
can
think
make reference to section 20, but in that, provide a summary of it.
Yeah, and I think, even if you do that tab on the side and you can put the actual section 20 of Mass General Law,
Yep.
for the people that do want to sit and read Mass General Law, have at it.
For the
And then
psychopaths.
If you would like to, if you'd like a quick, summary version of what that is, it can be under the
I'm
same
looking at you
link,
two.
I think, I agree, I think both is important. I don't think we want to say that we're trying to, eliminate anything or trying to
Yeah.
make it less than what it is. It's just,
just want to help everybody understand.
if you want to spend a week trying to figure out what this is, then have at it.
So in the second paragraph, I'm going to add the actual election date and remove the next 18 months to just 18 months. We're going to make a comment in here to invite people to sign up for alerts. I'm hopefully going to have email addresses to be able to provide, to put out there. And then I'm going to fix Keith's name, sorry. And I think that's it. So maybe by the end of the week, we could have this to Lucia to be up and running, at least in time for our public hearing. And if anybody has any comments or suggestions on things that they think should go on the website, bring them up at any time. Okay.
Are we all in agreement?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna check that off. Next item, Sun Chronicle article. Thank you. No worries. I was optimistic. I brought extras of everything in case we had people come from the public. I can't believe they didn't want to come to this.
So I had emailed the Mr. Peterson from the Sun Chronicle, basically just reached out to him asking him if we were able to pass along some information to him about what's kind of transpired in the last couple weeks, if he was able to put it in the newspaper. So he had responded to me pretty quickly and basically just explained to me that Sun Chronicle was obviously busy. They're covering 10 towns at this point. Their budget isn't what it used to be. But basically that if we were able to pass on a bulleted, type of stuff that was going on, that he would get it in the paper one way or the other. It may be different times, it may be different spots, but he would get it in. So I asked him if that was the best, I didn't want to write something up and then, have an email back to him saying this is about 1,000 characters too long. So I said, I'll just give you the highlights of what had transpired in the last couple of weeks, and then he can write it up as he sees fit. So what I did was I basically just took the straight information. I mean, I'm not going to pass along or push along anything in the paper that doesn't come directly from the commission. So I basically just put, a few things. And obviously this charter was formed in accordance with Mass law. We were all sworn in the office by a town clerk. The first meeting was held on May 9th, and all meetings were open to the public. The entire commission was briefed by the Norton Town Council, Lauren Goldberg, during the May 9th meeting. Obviously the second meeting was held on Monday, May 20th. A third meeting is scheduled for the 28th at 6:30. This meeting will take place in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at Norton Town Hall. Charters Commission first public hearing will take place on Monday, June 3rd at 5:30. Location of this meeting will be the Norton High School Library. I did add in there about the public hearing if it needed to be extended for time constraints. I'm wondering if I should just nix that, and obviously we can pass that along if need be at the meeting. I don't want to confuse people to when the meetings are or when they actually are going to take place unless we know that 100% going to happen.
I would agree with that.
So,
Maybe just some
You mean
like
just
additional
cut-
information to be found on, and then the link to the town site.
perfect. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was gonna say just cross it. Nope. You did not.
What I'll do is I'll just put this information we find on the Charter Commission website, and I'll just give the link.
Yep.
So my
Hopefully it's up by the time they post this.
what I can do as well is I can wait a couple days on this and find out, what transpires in the next. I think the big thing's going to be is the June 3rd meeting, but I also think it gives everyone an outline. Again, I'm just not totally convinced that all this is going to fit into what he's, kind of outlined for us. So, again, I'm going to give the information and kind of see where he goes from it.
Yep. I think we could, if he's going to cut things, we could probably remove the references to the second and third.
Exactly. I mean, I don't want to, there's no point of referencing meetings that have already taken place. I just wanted to more give us the.
Yep. I think if we do decide, and I think we should, on a standing meeting time, we could put that schedule in here.
And I think as well, if we add, again, I'd have to speak to him, but I think if we do come up with something that we want to add to the Sun Chronicle or inform him of potential things going down the road, I think he's more than apt to help us out and post those. So while I can submit this in the next couple of days to him, I think if we come up with something that we have a set time or set meeting, or that we're going to be changing locations, I think it's going to be a simple email that I can send to him, and then he can help us out with getting in it where he thinks he can.
Can I just say for the first bullet, it should probably say Charter Commission was formed rather than the charter
Yep.
itself.
Do we also want to just add a clause at the end of that saying something to the effect of Charter Commission was formed in accordance with Massachusetts law in order to review, yada, yada, right? Just to give a little, if he's going to write something, just to give him a context.
You want to put in order to review?
The existing Norton Town Charter and recommend possible improvements.
Because the intention of this is an article, correct? Not like a
Right.
public notice, right?
Right.
It's actually an article. Right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The intention is this to be turned into an article in a paper
Yes.
versus a
a
public notice.
I think what I'm gonna do, just because of the can't even say it. I think I'm gonna ask him to kind of send it to me first, so I can maybe even bring it back before we put it in there, just to make sure that we're not putting any information that we don't want out there or that's wrong information. 'Cause I just don't want it to be that meeting times are wrong or contradicts, the notices we put out before. So what I'll do is I'll ask him in the email that whatever he does write up, he can possibly send us, and then I can email everybody and just make sure that it's proofread and that we're good to go on it.
That's a really good idea.
Anybody else have any suggestions, comments, questions? Okay. All right. We'll continue to work on that. All right. New business. Public hearing. Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about the legal notice, which there's not a heck of a lot you can really, there's no bells or whistles, it's just the facts. The information that I was proposing to send to the Norton Media Center to have a slide made up. Norton Charter Commission will be holding their first public forum prior to the special town meeting on Monday, June 3rd, 2019, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Norton High School Library. All Norton residents are welcome to attend and give their input to the commission, make your voice heard. Again, similarly to what Kevin had suggested, I left out the continuance information. I think it's just too confusing. And if it does need to be continued, we're going to specifically notify the people that are there at that time. Do you have any suggestions or changes or? Okay. All right. If we're all in agreement, I'm going to send this specifically to Jason tomorrow. And the legal notice, we actually tried to submit today, but we were given the wrong email address. So we need to go back to the drawing board and get that in. But that has to be in, I think, by Friday, Sandy? The legal notice, it's got to be in the paper by Friday. All right, so I will send this to Jason, and hopefully in 2 or 3 days we'll have it back and he'll share the artwork with us, which would be nice. Okay, the public hearing. Let's discuss how we'd like to see that run. And see if we can assign some deliverables and what form we want the meeting to take. Let's roundtable questions that we may want to ask, given the fact that people may not be very forthcoming. My thought was, again, to bring that static major milestone timeline as a handout, just to give them something to walk away with. But I would do a brief introduction unless you wanted to do, no? Just a brief introduction, thank them for hopefully voting for that Charter Commission question, explain the work that we've got, kind of hit some of the major deliverables we've got in terms of, in 16 months and 18 months and when the election is, and then open it up and for comment and see if people will engage us directly. I'm hoping they will. I'm hoping people show up. One of my thoughts that I was kind of concerned with was we've got a 90-minute period of time, and I see this as potentially being more of a revolving door, where people kind of come in and drop their comments and leave. But I wasn't sure what other people's ideas. I know we've set a specific time. I don't know whether people will intentionally try and get there at 5:30 or if they'll show up at 6:30 just ahead of town hall. and kind of how we may wind up kind of addressing people more on a one-on-one or a few-to-one basis, and kind of splitting up, and everybody has, kind of the same spiel, thank them for coming, that sort of thing, and then just kind of asking them why they are there. Sandy had mentioned, sorry, Keith, yes?
So is the library upstairs still at the high school?
Yes, they said it was on the second floor. I've never been in that one.
We gotta put some signs or something saying where the meeting is then.
Yeah, upstairs.
Okay.
I think if if I were to guess that they're going to allow everyone to pretty much come in one door, so then if we can just put signs on the door leading in,
Okay.
and then we can just direct them whichever stairs that they want them using. I'm assuming they're going to make us go up the stairs right there in front of the auditorium.
I don't actually know where, I've never been to the library in the,
So, if you go in the auditorium door.
Yep.
And then as soon as you go into the building, to your left is a second door, or the first door, and it's a stairwell. Once you go upstairs, you want to take a right, immediate left. It's right there.
okay.
But generally, the main entrance, which is not the auditorium entrance, is the one that's open. And then you get redirected. So unless there's a town meeting that doesn't open up until about half hour before town. I'm just getting your meeting at 5:30.
Yes, and we did talk to the high school, and they did say they would open it up for us.
Right, I'm just, from,
So
That I
think if-
can at least confirm.
So I think if the town hall's going to be, if the town meeting is going to be using the auditorium doors like they normally do to check in voters and whatnot, they're probably not going to be using the newer entrance that was built. So I think if we just make sure that at 5:30 the same doors are open, we can kind of funnel people through there, put signs up like Keith said, directing people up the stairway. That's literally right to the left. Another sign at the top of the stairs saying, where the library is, and then at least they're using one in and one out, so we don't have everybody rambling through the schools trying to find out where we are for people that don't know where the library is.
that happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
Could I get somebody to volunteer to make signs and hang them up appropriately? Thank you. That would be helpful for me, because I'm going to need to follow them. Sandy had also suggested that we get a sign-up sheet, so that if we do get to the point where we gather, I don't know whether we'd do it on a Facebook page, but if we've got people that want to follow us, we've got basically an email list started, and we can send those people direct communications from the Charter Commission website or the email address, and make them aware of updates.
I think that's a great idea to, consolidate people's information on what they want to give to us. Whether it'd be great if we can voluntarily ask them if you'd like, to help us out. We might need future, wherever we go with the surveys or whatnot, or information. If you'd like to provide us your email address, we can access it. I think that's perfect.
Yep.
And I think, again, just obviously giving the other people the option that I'm all set and just want to be here for, listen to what you say and
Yep.
move on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just make sure you're clear on the sign-up sheet what they're signing up for.
I'm sorry?
So just make sure we're clear on the sign-up sheet what they're signing up for. Like, do you want regular communications from Charter
Okay.
Commission, sign up, sign below, or whatever?
Okay. Should we design an outline of a sign-up sheet? Does somebody want to take that task item of bringing the sign-up sheet with us? Thank you. I'm thinking name, obviously. Email address, and then is it as simple as, would you like to be notified of future updates of the Charter Commission? Do we need any additional information? Oh, how about a street address? Do we need a street address? Is it like town meeting where you have to say where you're from? Okay. Do we need it for any legal reason? Yeah. Okay. Okay. That sounds fairly,
Just those three things.
yeah, that'd be great.
I'll make sure that the heading is clear in terms of what they're signing up for as well. And then maybe just make them check a yes box too, for
Perfect.
double insurance.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the form of the meeting, I think we're gonna have to just let the group kind of dictate it, but I do like I said, think it's going to be a little bit more willy-nilly in terms of people just kind of dropping in as more of an open house as opposed to a coming to for information session specifically. So
I think what you said about, go ahead, Dave.
I was just say it's less us. It's not an information session, meaning us.
Right.
It is literally us listening.
Yeah,
to
why
what
are you
they-
here?
Yep. And thank you very much for your input. We'll take that into our process, right?
I think giving them like the printout of that static deadlines, at
Yep.
least to keep them informed of, these are kind of what we're looking at for rough thing. Obviously, there's going to be, and we can explain it, there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of stuff added to this, but this is what we have to do by this general law. And then basically just explain to them, we're in the beginning process of this. We haven't had many meetings. We're just going to be freshly starting reviewing, pertinent information regarding the charter and wherever else we go with that. I think too, with any information that is presented to us, I don't think we're going to have a lot of answers. If they start diving, deep diving into certain things, I think we're going to have to tell them, to be determined. But I also think that if there's, statements or questions for us that don't pertain to the charter or don't pertain to what we actually can do, I think we can correct that or self-correct that there. So we're getting the right information. You know what I mean? I know there's some, there's some individuals that have approached me while this process was going on, wanting changes in certain things that didn't relate whatsoever to the charter. You know what I mean? And I think that's just important to inform people that while we may agree with what you want, the charter isn't going to be responsible for those type of things. I think this is a great I think this first one's at least can clear up some of the misconceptions of it if we need to. I mean, I don't know what's going to present itself at the public meeting, but at least it'll, we can do those things.
I think, and I agree with what you're saying too, in terms of taking their questions and their comments and listening into why we're here. But I also think we need to guide them a little bit too, in terms of what we want from them, because we don't want them, we don't want their laundry list of complaints and what they want changed in, Article 4 and Section B. Like, we're not ready for that. So I think if we kind of keep it on a personal level, this is what, this is the commission, these are our goals, this is, thank them, these are our goals, this is our process, this is how we're going to go through and do it. I think this is great to have, but also on a personal level, this is how we're going to go through and do it, this is what we envision, and this is where we are right now, really kind of in this gathering phase, and we'd like to hear from you in terms of, how do you, what do you think of, I don't even think of that, because that's opening so many windows or doors, I don't want to give them that much, but I mean, like, limit them in terms of what we're talking about. We want to hear about, do you have any questions about the current government? Do you think do you know how the current government works? Is there something that you want to know more about a specific department or something along those lines, as opposed to them just spouting out change or a laundry list of complaints that we are not ready to address. And I think it's okay we're not ready to address, but I think we should kind of guide them in terms of what we're thinking for that night for feedback.
I think that's a great idea.
So thinking back to what Mom was saying last week, is I think part of the bringing up issues and encouraging the issues. And some of the issues that are about the classroom is that somebody may say, I'm going to have trash functions. It may seem completely irrelevant, but what can we take from that? Is there a process? Is there something that can be improved in the government structure to alleviate that issue? And I think again, just not really answering questions as much as tell us what your issues are. And I do put you in the numbers on that, because I think if we come up with that, one in 10 concerns that people have, and then we see, okay, these are things that we can come up with a way to at least come up with a process.
I
So I don't necessarily want to stop people from saying what their concerns and what their issues are and something like that. We don't have to have the answers.
Yeah.
It's just particularly.
Yeah, I would take away too from Lauren's conversation was that it's really kind of let them kind of vent and talk about all the things that they do have issues about, and then take that information in and see if we see a trend. Are we hearing this come up in a lot of places, and is this something that's a common issue?
Or even saying, how do you think would be best to improve it?
Yeah.
Kind of guiding them towards
what they'd like to see.
And I want to be careful about not trying to explain to them what our current charter is. I don't know that we're in a position to do that
Yeah.
yet. Unless Lauren's going to be sitting with us.
It's a public input session though, right? It's no different from the first 15 minutes of every meeting when we're gonna let people,
Right.
right? It's just
come and
it's
vent
the
your-
first one of those. I don't want to call it a big bang, kind of, but it's that's all it is, right?
Yeah.
Is the opportunity for the public to come in and tell us what they think.
Yeah.
And
I still think we write everything down,
Oh,
regardless.
absolutely.
If,
No, I
I think if
agree.
it's doesn't fall anywhere near the scope of our process,
Yeah.
I think we write it down.
it's our first.
I was looking at the, I forget if it was Amherst or North Attleboro. They actually posted literal posters in town hall, and it was, tell us what you like, tell us what you like to see different, tell us what's not working. And there was just tons and tons of things in there like, there's too many potholes. And why don't we have fire? You know, the things that, you know, people naturally want to complain about, and, you know, nowhere near the scope of it, but it was still written down. People still need to feel like they're being heard. I think we should collect every comment, question, concern, ask, and consideration request that we get. I don't know whether I think we should compile them. I think I would appreciate if somebody could volunteer to keep that list. Whether or not we choose to publish it, I did see a couple of towns actually literally put every single comment, survey response, every answer that they got back from the public in every single meeting that they did, which I think it shows that people were heard, whether or not it was a lot of necessary information, you know, other than for the purposes of telling them, yes, we heard you and we've marked your concerns.
I think if we're gonna do that and have, you know, them come in and voice, I think we need to stay as a 9-person. Like, I don't wanna have them branching off and, you know, discussing in small groups. And the reason I think that where it becomes a problem with that is if someone comes in that knows an individual person and they wanna go and filter to that one person, I think if we stay as together in unity to say, we're working together with you as the voter, help us, you know, help you, you know, speak to us. I understand a lot of people aren't gonna be totally, you know, some people aren't comfortable coming up and speaking to us, but I think we need to encourage that from the beginning. They're gonna be doing a public meeting if they come to one of these for the 15 minutes. I think branching off and talking to individual people is gonna create a storm of, we don't wanna go down that road. That's just my opinion.
And I like the idea of, you know, the 3 questions. You'd have to say them again in terms of what they were. But I like the idea of guiding them even in that way. These
Yes,
were, you know,
I was going to piggyback on that. You did bring
You know,
up a very good point.
Exactly. I think that gives them some guidance instead of just saying, okay, tell us everything.
Yes.
Like, it gives them a place to start. It actually will help, I think, helps people formulate what it is they want to say. And if they have those 3, what were the 3 things? Can you say it again? What was your...
Yeah.
What do you like?
What do you like? Why?
Yeah.
What changes would you like to see?
Yeah.
And I'm plagiarizing off of their survey,
Yeah.
literally off the posters off the wall. What changes would you like to see in town government services or programs? I don't know if we want to get into that specific, because it makes it sound like we have control over a lot of things that we may not. And then what isn't working, what don't you like about town government process and services?
I like those open-ended questions. I
I
think
like
it's a
those
good
opening questions.
conversation.
I
Yeah.
think it's a good conversation starter, and I think it helps people focus on something to say instead of just kind of willy-nilly
Willy-nilly.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at one point I was talking with Sandy, and Sandy had a really good idea in saying we could even probe a little bit further and let them say what they're saying and then ask them, okay, why? Why do you feel that way? You know, let's say somebody comes in and specifically says, I do or do not like open town meeting. Tell me why. And then, you know, hopefully we can probe a little bit more information, get a little bit more information from them that way.
Yeah.
All right, so do we agree then that we want to do this as more of a panel and stay together?
Yeah.
Regardless of how
Yeah.
we may be sitting around talking to each other for,
I do feel like 90 minutes is a long time. I'm not. Do you think people will roll in like an hour before or half an hour?
I'm thinking we'll see them a half an hour before,
I think we'll see a mix, right? I think there'll be some people that,
who think it's a deadline. and
very
starts.
small few that might come early. I
Yeah.
think it'll probably be more later, people get out of work later, just before the meeting.
I think if we have the handouts that we are gonna present to them, when they come in,
Yep.
we can ask them to stay and talk. If they don't want to stay talking, at least gather what they want and move on to town meeting.
And
Gives
ask them to
an-
sign in.
Yeah, and it gives them an
Yeah.
opportunity to gather what they want, the paperwork. If they do want to approach us and talk to us, come on up. If not, they can make it. I mean, obviously, everyone coming there is probably going to be at a town meeting afterwards, so I think it's going to be something that, like you said, come within a half hour or so, and see what it's about.
It'd be nice if there was a good showing, because I can imagine if only one person shows up and has to talk to the 9 of us.
Right,
It's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know it's a revolving door, that it may end up being that way, but, if we're gonna be a panel and, we have a starting point, it might be a nice idea to introduce ourselves to everybody there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Try to keep it personal, and
Yeah.
that would be nice.
I
Although
think.
we're all
Do we want to
enthusiastic about
encourage? Do we want to encourage them with whatever handout we give them, that to make sure that if they don't feel comfortable speaking to us in that meeting, that they can pass along any information they want to us through the email?
Yes, so,
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna suggest, since I'm already doing a, guide to charter commission, we could use that as a handout as well and have the contact information.
that would be great. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Really, if you have this meeting earlier and they all come in, they give their, remarks and what they need, I could we can invite them back to the next meeting and we can all think about it for the weekend or, then tell them, it sounds like a really good questions and stuff like that. Say, come on back to our next meeting and we can discuss it, a little further, because it's not gonna be a lot of time there.
No, it's not. And I think that's a really good idea. I'm not sure necessarily the next meeting we're going to be prepared to discuss their issue, but I think if we have their name and their email address and if we can keep track of what their specific issue is, we may be able to target them and say, hey, we're going to be talking about this. Please come to that meeting.
Yeah.
So to the extent
Is
that,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, interrupted.
no, that's okay.
Yeah, do we want to do that? Do we want to just take the questions and assign a name to them? Or do we just want to take everybody? I'm not sure it's a great idea if we single people out. Do they want us to? Do they not want us to? If we just take the questions and address them as questions later on down the line?
What if we ask them, say they present a topic to us that we can't, or we don't prepared to, obviously, we're not going to be prepared, so
Right.
we can inform them, we're obviously not prepared to just, this is an ongoing process. When we get to that, which I don't know when it's going to be, would you like us to contact you to tell you when we're going to be speaking about that individual thing that you have to complain about?
Are we creating too much work for ourselves, though, to keep track?
A little bit.
Keep that specific track. But we're going to have meetings that have specific topics, and invited speakers. So we could simply tell them to keep checking the website for the agendas and the topics, and that way it's sort of on them. I feel terrible if we forgot to.
I agree. No, I agree. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a nice way to close it out is to be sure that we say, okay, look, we have all these questions and we wrote them down and, we take these seriously and we're going to take these back to the table. We may not get to them next week or the week after, but we will get to them. Please keep following us, follow these forums, check our site, see what our topics are.
Yeah.
Might
Just
be
in the really
an easy
early
way.
information gathering phases right now.
And in terms of tracking the public feedback, I really do like the idea. I don't know how others feel, but I really do like the idea of having it online. They're public documents anyway.
Yep.
And I know, it's been very helpful to have planning board comments up in their Dropbox. So I don't know if there's something we can do for the Charter Commission and just sort of funnel stuff in emails and letters people send into a central
Repository.
so.
Yep.
And would that be accessible by
Like
everybody?
linked on the website.
Okay.
So that they can just look and, we'd have to figure out how to organize it, either by meeting or by,
So
by
the-
topic.
Can I ask a question? The
Yeah.
planning board, they
Yeah.
have a link on their page to a Dropbox, you
No,
said?
I actually got it,
from an email from the planner.
Yep.
But it's a link to a Dropbox, and it's updated with each letter of testimony or email that they get on a specific.
Oh, the
site
Bay
plan
Road
review.
folks,
Yeah.
but that went on the, it was very,
I'm a Bay Road folk.
yeah, it was a little unwieldy because as people submitted it, there was really no route. You actually had to open everything to kind of see what was what,
Yeah, we have to
because,
figure out how to organize it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like, it is a public record, they can access it and, and don't have to go through like a formal process to submit a records request and just in the interest of transparency, if it's possible. I don't know what's possible technologically, but the more we can sort of keep out there. I think
yeah. I agree. I just don't know in what form and how we make it
Answer that question
available.
right now.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there, like, I did like the idea that I could just go and see what the updates were.
Were you envisioning it being, so I was going to ask somebody if they could, either in Word or Excel in some sort of table, literally just keep track of the public comments that we received throughout the process so that we had it in a single place and we could identify what themes were, just kind of mark the date and the comment. It doesn't need to be even attributed to an individual person.
I'll do that. Do you mean ongoing, or are you talking about just this
No, I'm
meeting, or
talking
do
about,
you mean
yes, so it would
ongoing?
start here.
Okay.
Or if we happen to get an email prior to
Okay.
that point.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
and
I can do
then,
that.
that'd be great, thank you. And whatever you're most comfortable with, but just something that we can just keep adding to.
Probably crayon and paper.
Yeah, that'd be great. Your kids got some sparkles. Jazz it up a little bit.
I'm thinking, do we want to somehow
Love
be
to
able to
sign.
categorize it, just so we can,
Probably not until we get to the point where we've kind of, I'm envisioning, yes, it would be categorized at some point, but probably not until we're ready to discuss and deliberate kind of on that basis. We should probably go through and identify the themes and then do them all at once.
Well, if Janie gives a rough idea of what she considers should be categorized under each theme, like for instance, if you get let's just say for instance, you get a complaint about cable. She gets, 2 or 3 complaints about cable. She can filter it into that one thing. If it needs to be changed and we need to move it to a different category, we can do that as a group. But at least for the rough draft of it, she can funnel it to certain things. I mean, whether it be complaint about town hall, whether it be complaint about senior, whatever it may be, you put it where you think it's going to be, and then when we have when we're at that time, we can say, this needs to be moved, or this needs to be added into this,
Right.
we'll discuss it.
that's why I'm asking, because while she's setting it up, like, instead of us having to go through afterwards and
It'd be
go through each individual one and then recategorize it, just have her do it now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
If you're comfortable with that, I don't want to
No,
assign
I'm
that.
fine. It's not going to look anything like this. Like, just so we're clear. Just so we're clear when we show up.
How it could be.
Whatever form you're comfortable with. Okay, that's good work. All right, so we talked about public feedback tracker. I think let's table whether or not we make that tracker available to the public, and maybe that's a Lauren Goldberg question.
You mentioned you had seen that before on other sites. Was it just like a laundry list of things?
It literally was. It was really unwieldy. So, and I think it was the Amherst page, and it was, so they had a link to a specific page within their website was a little bit more robust. They had a lot more space, let's just say. But so you went into public comments, and it brought you to a whole page, and it was literally like the email that Lauren Goldberg sent, where it was just listening sessions by date, and there were links into them, and you went in, and every individual, instead of just being consolidated in one sheet, it was every public hearing, every info session, every individual meeting where comments were raised. There were things that came up at their town meetings that they addressed in there, but it was all kind of, individually, and you had to click individual links to get to the individual comments from that specific thing. So it wasn't very user-friendly. It was helpful in the fact that, oh, yeah, here my comments were noted, but it was quite the dog's breakfast, as my dad likes to say. So I think if we can just have a single tracker that's consolidated where we've, make note of the date, like I said, not specifically attributable to anybody, just the date that the comment, question, whatever was raised, and whatever it was. All right. I'm making a side list of the Lauren questions so we don't consolidate those as much as we can. Okay, so we've talked about how we're going to get that information at least initially out there. We have signage. Sandy's going to do signage for us for the meetings itself, which I hadn't even thought of. Thank you, Keith. A sign-in sheet. Janie's going to take care of that, as well as the public feedback tracker. I will bring the copies of the timeline. Carrie is going to do the summary of the charter, and on the handout that she's going to put contact information on how to get in touch with us if they have any questions at a later date. And we've decided on a panel format, and we have a few questions, simple questions that we can just list to kind of elicit some more feedback. I think do we start with questions, or do we open it up and just let them fire at will?
I'd like to open with us and someone, talking about the committee, the goals, our.
Yes, no, I mean, after that
Oh,
point,
afterwards.
when we get to the public comment point,
I
do we just let them hit us with what they came to talk about? Or do we, and if we don't get a response, then we do some probing questions?
So,
I like that.
Okay.
just one quick note, so we're not repeating ourselves constantly with the same questions. Can we just use the screen behind you and post the questions up there?
This screen?
No, not here.
Okay.
The library, if there's a screen you can pull down or something, to just post the questions up there so they can see it when they come in.
Okay. Is there like a whiteboard available? Like I said, Shane. Shane's nodding. If there's a whiteboard, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And again, I'll do whatever the group agrees to do, but I don't like the idea of just throwing out, okay, let's hear. I kind of like the three, even if we had the whiteboard, where did I write them? The three, what do you like about time? What do you not like? How would you like to see that improved? I do like giving them some type of guidance.
Okay.
In terms of,
All right, so we'll
maybe three categories. I think that anything someone has to say might fall into that category. What do you like? What do you don't like?
Okay, so we'll start with, after the introduction, we'll say, if you didn't have a specific topic you wanted to bring up, here are some things to think about. And these are the questions that we would like some answers to. And then hopefully that gets us somewhere.
Yeah.
Sort of direction at the beginning, and then sort of saying, is there anything else that you didn't ask that you want to say?
Yeah, that's a really good idea
So
too.
sort of your last at the end.
I think it's our responsibility to, we're giving them a set time of when we're starting the meeting. So, I don't think that we need to start going into repeating ourselves 1,000 times every time someone comes in that wants to stroll in at, 6:30.
Yeah.
We started the meeting at 5:30. We'll see how it goes when we get there, but we'll pass out the information that we have. We'll give them the information on it if we have a whiteboard. If they do filter in, we'd like to ask them a couple questions or provide us feedback. I don't think we need to go back into the, the beginning spiel of trying to, prove everybody this is, you're just going to come in at 6 o'clock and we're going to start over again. Meeting's a meeting. This is when we're having it. We'd like you to show up at 5:30 so you can get the beginning of it. But if not, we understand that you can, come if you can,
We'll be on video too.
Yeah,
Yeah, at least if they walk in late, they can get a
Yeah.
context of what we're looking for.
yeah.
Are we gonna end, maybe we should end at 7 o'clock, because people need to see.
Yeah, we'll probably have to leave,
6:45, and
yeah,
just so that people aren't forgetting that.
yeah.
6:45
yeah, I think as long as we have, that's right, because we have to give them time to, register, yeah, I don't know. As long as they're in line, they have to, as long as they're in line by 7 o'clock, they have to be able to register, so I think as long as we've set them free and they can get in line, set them free. I think we're okay, but yeah, so probably, I'm thinking, 5 to 10 minutes prior to, we'll alert them, if somebody can just keep track of the time, we'll alert them to town meetings coming up and, see if, raise the issue if we have not fully met their, needs up until that point. We're happy to come back and talk to you again the following evening at the middle school library. Anything we're not taking into consideration for the first public hearing? Okay, I think everybody's happy with the panel and what we're going to talk about. Everybody has their deliverables. Okay. All right, what time is it? All right, it's getting late. I don't think anybody's going to complain if we jump around a little bit. I think there's some things on the agenda that are more important than others to get through, at least tonight. So I'm going to suggest holding 7B, 7C for now. I'll get rid of E really quickly. You have 30 days from the election to get your campaign finance paperwork in. Lucia will probably send you a reminder if you have not already. But please just stay in compliance. It makes things a lot easier down the road. And the same with the conflict of interest disclosure. If you feel like you should or need to submit a disclosure to Lucia, please do that. I'm probably if you're on another committee, it doesn't hurt anything. I recommend just submitting it, filing it, and getting it over with. Please and thank you. I think we've actually already talked about email, so we'll table that until I have more information tomorrow. But I think we have our marching orders depending upon which way it goes. The one thing I would just ask is if you send an email to the group, please blind CC everybody. Do not send them out directly. It just encourages people to hit reply all. So if you're sending an email to the group again, and copy, if we're sending an email that's related to the Charter Commissioner to the group, copy the main Charter Commission email as well, just so it's there. Do we need to do that?
Do you have that already?
No.
Oh,
I think we can table that until we figure out what the email.
All
And then
right.
we'll go over that route.
I'm just
of
thinking
how
if
we're
there's
gonna
an,
send it.
I'm trying to think about if there's an actual need to do it.
If we all have town emails, we don't need to.
Yeah.
No,
And then
okay.
Just find out.
Scratch that.
Yeah. Just wait until we figure
Okay.
out more of the email.
So otherwise, we have our marching orders in terms of what we're going to do, dependent upon the meeting tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about meeting. Place and time. Well, I think we have a place. Let's discuss what days we want to hold our meeting on. I know we started getting down this road at one point. I know Dave had listed a preference for Thursdays. My personal feeling is between the Board of Selectmen meeting and our IDC meetings, it's going to be really tight scheduling around that. And I do want to work. I want you there. Please. But I do understand, you travel significantly. I know we were also looking to try and avoid, if we're going to be meeting here, we should probably try and avoid conflicts with other boards. I think Monday looked like
relatively clear days going forward. If anybody has any objection to Mondays. Okay. So we're scheduled, so we have 2 back-to-back meetings. Let's see. All right, so Mondays will be our day. Is 6:30 an okay time for everybody? Is that too early or too late? I prefer earlier, but,
I would prefer 7.
okay.
I definitely can't do earlier
You can't do earlier than 7 or?
than 6:30.
No, okay. Are you okay with 6:30?
I wouldn't mind a little bit later as well, but I can do 6:30.
Okay.
Right, I would qualify mine the same way. First 7.
Okay.
Be
And
here
I have
at
a,
6:30 on the nose.
Right, exactly.
I'm a morning person, so, and I'm seeing Keith's schedule, and he's a morning person.
Well, it's more about, like, I'm sure Dave.
Yeah,
said,
whether you can get
I-
here.
I work till
Exactly.
5:30.
Do we want to take a vote? Does anybody have any strong or hard feelings on it one way or the other?
I don't.
Do we want to take a vote between 6:30 and 7 to be fair, or is there just not enough? Does anybody not care? Yep.
Is it all right with Jay? Or
What's that?
is it all right with,
Do you care, Shane?
I prefer earlier the better, but it's up to you.
Okay.
I think if the none of us have a problem with 7, it helps.
No, you want
So,
7,
let's go
seven's
for
fine.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most meetings start,
They do.
7.
I think, a half hour can change the game for you guys and go for 7.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So our meetings are going to be Mondays at 7. Should we consider this our first standing meeting in, well, we have one the 28th, and then we have a meeting the 3rd. Do we want to meet starting, let's see. So let's do we want our next, so we're meeting on the 28th, then we have the public hearing on the 3rd. Do we want to meet on the 10th, or do we prefer to defer until the 17th?
In general, what are we thinking the frequency is going to be?
I was thinking every other, until we got to a point where we were like, we need to get going.
I'm good with every other.
Every other's good with me,
Yeah.
too.
So that
And
just
I think if we can stay on top of it, we may not get to that point. They've given, I keep looking at it going, we have all this time, but I know it's going to be,
So,
Right.
so technically, though, is the 10th the every other, since the 28th is the actual meeting? Because the 3rd, we're not going to be discussing business.
right. Well, we could conceivably, we might just be sitting there amongst ourselves. We can't talk about Game of Thrones all night.
I have very strong opinions about that.
Yeah.
If we have the 3rd, and that gives us, the week or so to digest everything that's gonna come, if everything comes from that, and then we can start fresh on the 17th, and then that'll bring us to the 1st of July.
I guess I was thinking we're not really digesting anything from the 3rd yet. We're just gathering, right? Because we're just going to be discussing charters and meeting with people still,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think at the next meeting, one of the agenda items that I think we should probably talk about is the order in which we want to do things. We probably want to read a few things first before we start
Right.
talking with people. The only person that I could think of that we might want to talk to sooner rather than later is potentially Mark Fisher. I think I would just like to get an idea of somebody who's gone through it recently of what would you do differently, and maybe we just invite him as a guest sometime coming up in the next month or so. But I didn't know whether, again, we can table that for another time. Next meeting, we'll talk about the order in which we want to do things. But, so do we want to meet the 10th, or do we want to meet the 17th, or does nobody care?
Do either.
Either one is fine.
Is anybody not going to be here the week of July 4th?
I am around.
If we're
I'm
not
taking-
going to be able to meet that week,
Good point, Dave.
we should
Back
meet the
from that
10th if
one,
people aren't
right?
going to be able to be here the week of the 4th.
Let's just
Okay.
do the 10th then.
So that'll be the 10th and the 24th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna be the 24th.
Potentially skip the week of the 4th.
It's fine.
We're meeting on what, the 10th?
So the 10th and then the 24th?
Yep.
And then we're on an every other week
We're gonna go every other
Okay.
week. Tomorrow I'll go in and mark off as many of those as I can for this room with Lucia. Shall we, I think it's probably gonna be dependent upon whoever happens to have the meeting. So what I'll try and do is move it to Tuesday. If we can't get Monday, if we can't get Tuesday, I'll move it to Wednesday. I don't know whether we.
can also move the location out too. We could move it to the.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Center or the library as a backup.
Okay, excellent point. All right, so let's make a decision. If we cannot get the Monday, do we want to seek alternate dates, or do we want to
I think-
seek an alternate location, or do we want to move to another date?
I think we just change the location. I think if we set a set time at 7 o'clock on Mondays, everyone knows where the meeting's gonna be, and if
Okay.
we need to inform people that we're moving to
Yeah.
wherever in town, we can do that then.
Can I assign you?
Yeah, and I just highlighted
Norton Media Center, just letting them know if
It's
we
in
do
there.
have a
It's
change of
done.
location.
Not changed.
We just need to let them know where we're going.
So if anything changes with the meetings, or we can't meet here, I will inform them of
Yeah.
where we're going.
And it's just director at Norton Media Center. And that goes to Jason. Shane will be in our meeting and he'll keep track of it too. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we got, what have we missed? All right, do we want to table D? It's 8:37 right now.
Can I just mention on that?
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't really know all her name, but this is, I just took from the email chemical, pulled off all the committees, appointed, and employees, so pulled all this other out of the town report. And not necessarily saying we need every single people, for example, the next first top is the transportation committee. We found that, I didn't even say it was our mission, but this is just, again, to pull this, kind of think about if there's, again, as the work said, if we want to get an order of how anybody can go in, to, if we just a specific time frame, this is just a research process. We'll talk about the next meeting.
Does it make sense for an agenda item
Thank
for the
you.
next meeting to make a final version of our list that we want to talk to? We can all take some time to digest this. I have some notes on it here, and I'm sure others do as well.
Did I get that? I don't think I got that piece. That's why I was wondering if we were going to table it. I don't. I think it was missing from my packet.
He didn't get
I
it.
could be wrong.
He just got finished saying it's special.
I'll grab it from you. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so yes, let's. So we're going to take.
I don't want to.
So our next meeting is
28th.
May 28th.
Yes.
We're gonna table 7B, 7C, 7D, and we can take that up then. I had, and this is not necessarily specifically for next week, but just things to think about in general. Setting up a survey that we could put on the website for people to fill out. I think that would be helpful. Remote participation, we've got a table. The social media protocol, we probably will do that after consulting with Lauren, along with the, whether or not we want to make available the tracking of public comments and how the best way to go about it is. Does anybody have anything else specifically for May 28th that they would like to discuss in that meeting?
Do we not want to start reviewing some of the charters that Lauren sent, or?
Yes, sorry. In the packet, I think it would be helpful to know at least what is in the our current charter before we go into the public hearing, just so we know the types of things that are there. And Sandy has printed one out for everybody, and made it available.
Just FYI, because I forwarded some charter, there's
Oh.
another charter on there somewhere.
On the website.
That's outdated.
It is. It does not have
I
the
think that's
most.
the one I
So
have.
that has the town clerk.
Okay.
So I think if we,
What's the date on that one? Is that July?
This
Yeah,
was July
that's
30th,
the one I have.
2013.
So that's the outdated one? Okay.
This is actually just an
I don't remember. It's the E-code one, yeah.
Okay, okay. That would be great. Thank you. All right.
I printed your print
I
out.
printed it too. Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Okay, so
So
we'll.
next week, we should read.
Yeah, so as a homework assignment, let's read the Norton Town Charter. It's actually not as long as I thought it was going to be, which was refreshing.
Yeah, it's 22 pages.
And we can discuss as needed. I don't really feel like we need to get into any deliberation or debate, maybe just some general comments if anybody has anything. It's more just to be prepared for the public hearing and what people are going to want to address with us. So I will put that on the agenda for next week, but more as just a general discussion in prep. Anything else anybody wants to talk about specifically on the 28th? Why don't we have drafts of all of the things for the public hearing that everybody's been assigned to, so that we can all review them. I found out from Mike, if you do not have access to a copier or if it's cost prohibitive or a printer, we have access to use the printer that's out in the hall. So if you just want to bring one and make copies for everybody when you get here in advance, that makes things a little easier.
So we can do it when we come. We don't have to come like in the middle of the day.
No.
Right, we get it.
Nope.
Perfect.
No.
We can on Wednesday.
Now-
Wednesdays between 12 and 2.
Yeah. One of the things that I just found out, apparently I'm gonna get a key card to get into the building. I did not realize that the building was closed, on nights that there aren't meetings. Although we
Yeah.
had a meeting, it's closed. But just keep that in mind. If you want to, I'll try and get here. I'll try and be here at 6:30. And I will try and bring my material, so I'm not using the copier, but just so people can get in. And if not, you have access to the building?
you're not.
You do not. Maybe we can get you access to it. I will ask Mike if we can both have it.
Actually, you know what? I might, so stand by on that.
Okay.
I gotta
Sandy also.
Sure you can find
I have to
a way
double
in.
check.
Sandy also has access because she's chair of the Rail Trail Committee. So if you do need to get in, just ask one of us and we can get you in here early. Anything else for the 28th? What else do we have? Anything not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance? I think we've reviewed the action items sufficiently. Are you okay with them, Sandy? Okay. Then I think we'll skip that. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Then
Adjourned.